Imagine standing at the edge of a forest so dense that the sunlight barely touches the ground. The air is thick, humid, and unnervingly quiet, but then you hear it. Your mother's voice calling your name from behind a massive, ancient teak tree. You turn around, smiling, ready to answer, only to realize your mother is 500 miles away. This isn't a dream. This is the living nightmare reported by those who have dared to venture near the Juba Woods, a region where the vegetation doesn't just grow, it listens. And then it mimics. The mystery begins with the total disappearance of a small settlement known locally as Silent Creek on the outskirts of the forest in the late 1960s. In the early morning hours, a passing trade caravan noticed something chilling. The village was intact. Fires were still smoldering in the hearths, indicating that people were there just minutes ago. Half-eaten meals sat on wooden tables, still warm. Laundry hung limply on the lines, damp from the morning dew, but there wasn't a single soul in sight. No struggle, no signs of a raid, and most importantly, no footprints leading away from the village into the soft, muddy earth. It was as if an entire community had simply been deleted from reality. However, when the search party arrived, they didn't find the silence they expected. They found a haunting, overlapping cacophony of sound. They heard the laughter of the missing children and the frantic, hushed conversations of the village elders, all coming from deep within the emerald darkness of the forest canopy. But there was a terrifying pattern to these sounds. When the rescuers followed the voices, the source would move. If they ran toward the sound of a crying baby, the cry would suddenly shift 50 yards to the left, then move deeper into the dense brush. It was a tactical retreat. The search party reported that the voices didn't sound like they were coming from human throats. They sounded vibrationally perfect, like a recording being played back through the wood of the trees themselves. One survivor noted that he heard his own voice, a sentence he had spoken just 10 minutes prior, being whispered back to him from the top of a tree. This is the first terrifying layer of the Juba anomaly. The forest doesn't just lure you, it studies you in real time. It waits for you to reveal a sound of emotional value, and then it uses that sound as a hook to pull you into the labyrinth from which no one returns. As the few survivors of the search party returned, they brought back accounts that challenged the very laws of biological science. They described what is now termed the Acoustic Predator Theory. While mainstream botany suggests that plants communicate through chemical signals and underground fungal networks, the Wood Wide Web, the Juba Woods seem to have evolved a predatory acoustic system that targets the human nervous system. Locals believe that these trees possess a form of sentient memory. They don't just repeat sounds like a simple echo, they curate them. They play back the sounds of distress or the specific call of a loved one to lure in more nutrients. Think of it as a natural, terrestrial version of a deep-sea anglerfish, but instead of a light, it uses the voice of your favorite person. But how is this physically possible? Independent researchers who investigated the site under the guise of soil sampling suggested that the forest sits on a unique geological pocket rich in quartz and obsidian. This geological foundation, combined with the specific hollowed-out structure of the ancient trees, creates a phenomenon known as infrasonic resonance. These are sound waves below 20 Hz, too low for the human ear to consciously hear, but powerful enough to vibrate the internal organs and the fluid inside the human eyeball. When you enter the Juba Woods, this 17 Hz to 19 Hz hum begins to affect your brain's temporal lobe. This is the part of the brain responsible for processing sound and memory. The infrasound triggers an intense sense of presence, the feeling that someone is standing right behind you. It induces cold sweats, extreme paranoia, and vivid auditory hallucinations. In this state of high arousal fear, your mind begins to project its own internal memories onto the rustling of the leaves. You aren't being hunted by a ghost. You are being hunted by a biological machine that uses your own brain's architecture against you. The forest creates the frequency, your brain creates the ghost, and your legs carry you straight into the heart of the predator. It is a perfect closed-loop trap that has likely been perfecting its frequency for thousands of years, long before humans even developed language. There is only one documented case of a person spending more than 48 hours lost in the deep interior of the Juba Woods and returning. His testimony, hidden in local police archives, is the reason why the area is now considered a black zone. He described a sensation he called the static. He claimed that after the first 24 hours, the individual voices of the forest, the crying, the calling, the laughing, began to merge into a single, overwhelming vibration. It wasn't just sounds of people anymore. It was the sound of the forest processing his presence. He described seeing the bark of the trees ripple like water. He claimed that when he stood still for too long, the moss on the ground would begin to grow toward his boots with unnatural speed, as if trying to anchor him to the spot. But the most disturbing detail of his account was the visual mimicry. He claimed that the knots in the wood and the patterns on the leaves would occasionally shift, forming the vague, screaming outlines of the people who had disappeared years ago. This isn't just a forest that kills, it's a forest that archives. The survivor believed that the trees were recording the bioelectrical signatures of their victims. He heard the exact screams of the Silent Creek villagers, played back in a haunting, distorted loop, but the voices sounded thicker, as if they had been integrated into the cellular structure of the wood. This suggests a terrifying biological possibility: horizontal gene transfer. Is it possible that the forest is absorbing the DNA or the consciousness of those it consumes? The survivor only managed to escape by realizing that the forest struggled to mimic unnatural sounds. He began to strike two pieces of metal together and hummed a constant, dissonant tone that disrupted the forest's resonance. This acoustic shield allowed him to find his way back to the clearing, but he was never the same. He claimed that even years later, in the middle of a city, he could still hear the Juba trees tuning themselves to his voice through his own sync pipes and vents. Once the forest has your frequency, it never truly stops looking for you. It has a copy of you now, and that copy is calling out to the rest of the world. Today, the region surrounding the Juba Woods has been scrubbed from most commercial maps. It is classified as a quiet zone or a biological hazard area. There are no roads leading in, and the local military has standing orders to intercept anyone attempting to enter the perimeter with recording equipment. Why the secrecy? Because modern satellite monitoring has revealed a terrifying truth: the forest is growing, and it isn't growing at a natural rate. In the last decade, the canopy has expanded by several kilometers, always moving toward the nearest human settlements. It's as if the forest is an invasive, sentient organism that requires human data, our voices, our emotions, our sounds, to fuel its expansion. Some theorists believe the Juba Woods is a remnant of a sentient ecosystem from the Precambrian era, a time when the Earth was ruled by organisms that didn't perceive the world through sight or sound, but through pure vibration and frequency. The warning for anyone traveling in remote, densely forested areas remains the same: trust your eyes, but never trust your ears. If you find yourself in a place where the wind sounds like a rhythmic whisper, or if the trees seem to lean in toward you when you speak, do not make a sound. The moment you speak, you provide the forest with a digital blueprint of your vocal cords. You are giving the predator the key to your home. Once it has your voice, it will use it. It will wait until your family is looking for you, and then it will call out to them using your exact tone, your private nicknames, and your most desperate pleas. It will draw them into the emerald trap just as it drew the people of Silent Creek. The Juba Woods are not just a place. They are a hungry, vibrating intelligence that predates humanity and will likely outlast it. As you sit in your room now, listen to the silence. Is it truly silent, or is there a faint, low hum vibrating in the back of your skull, waiting for you to finally say, hello? Remember, if the forest calls your name, it's already too late. You aren't hearing a voice, you're hearing a memory.